This might be the hardest thing I've ever written, but I feel like I need to get this off my chest and maybe get some perspective. What I've learned about my wife, Olivia, 34F, has shattered everything I thought I knew about our life together. I'm writing this because I don't know who else to talk to and I need to figure out what I should do next. My name is Jake, 36M, and Olivia and I have been married for 8 years. We have 2 kids, Sarah, 7, and Ben, 4, and I've always thought we had a great marriage. Sure, like any relationship, we've had our ups and downs, but nothing that ever made me question her loyalty or the strength of our bond. We've always communicated well, and I thought we were in a good place. That was until recently. For the past 6 months, Olivia had been acting differently. At first, I chalked it up to work stress. She recently got a big promotion at her job, and I knew it meant longer hours and more responsibility. But the changes in her behavior started to get more noticeable. She would come home late, and when I asked about her day, she'd give me vague answers saying she was working late or had more meetings than expected. I didn't think too much about it, but after a while, I started to feel something was off. The real turning point came when she started using her phone more often in secret. Olivia has always been open with her phone, she'd leave it around and not hide it, so it was unusual when she started picking it up as soon as she got a text and walking into the other room to answer it. I didn't want to be the paranoid husband, but I couldn't help feeling like something wasn't right. The texts were coming at odd hours, late at night or early in the morning. She'd laugh at something on her phone, then quickly cover it up when I walked into the room. I confronted her once about it, and she assured me that it was just work stuff. She said I was overreacting, but deep down, I didn't believe her. There was something in her voice, something in the way she avoided my gaze, that made me feel like she was hiding something. I tried to let it go, but the nagging feeling didn't stop. The more I thought about it, the more I realized that I had been out of touch with her. We weren't connecting like we used to. We weren't spending quality time together, and I had become increasingly suspicious of her behavior. But what really pushed me to act was the one night she had to go out of town for a work meeting. She packed her bag, kissed me goodbye, and headed off. I didn't think much of it at first, but something about the way she was acting that morning seemed off. She was unusually hurried and didn't even offer to explain what the meeting was about. I decided that night that I couldn't wait any longer. I needed answers. I hired a private investigator, a guy named Roger who came highly recommended. He was discreet and had experience tracking people without being noticed. I told him to follow Olivia the next time she went on one of her business trips. I felt like I was betraying her trust, but my gut told me there was something bigger going on. The next weekend, Olivia was scheduled to leave for another work trip. I felt sick to my stomach as I watched her pack her things, just like she had every other time. This time, I didn't say goodbye at the door. Instead, I texted Roger, telling him to follow her and report back. He responded that he would be on it, and I waited anxiously. I spent the day pacing around the house, my mind running in a million directions. What was I going to find? What would happen if I was right? The doubt and fear overwhelmed me. I kept thinking of the worst-case scenario, but I couldn't let myself stop. I needed to know the truth. I needed to understand what was going on behind closed doors. The hours dragged on and I kept myself busy with work, but my mind was never far from what was happening. I kept glancing at my phone, waiting for Roger to send me an update. I knew the clock was ticking. Olivia would be out of the house for hours and I had to know what she was doing during that time. Was she really going on business trips or was there something else going on? It wasn't until late that evening that I finally got the text I had been waiting for. Roger's message came in at around 9:45 p.m. Roger, she went to a hotel downtown after leaving the airport. Checked in under a different name. No meetings, no work at all. She's with someone. My stomach twisted as I read those words. I had suspected something for weeks, but seeing it in black and white made it real. Olivia wasn't at a work meeting. She had gone to a hotel under a fake name and she wasn't alone. She was with someone else. I felt the world shift beneath me. I couldn't breathe. All my suspicions, all the late nights, the strange behavior, the vague answers, it all made sense now. I wasn't paranoid. She had been cheating on me. I told Roger to keep me updated and he texted me a little while later with more details. He had managed to catch a glimpse of Olivia as she checked in. She had been with a man I didn't recognize. Roger didn't get a good look at him, but he confirmed that they went into the room together. That night, I barely slept. I kept going over everything in my mind, piecing together the details of our life and the life I thought we were building. How long had this been going on? Who was this man? How could Olivia do this to me, to our family? I had so many questions, but I didn't know where to start. The next morning, I called Roger again. I needed more information, but I didn't know what I was hoping to find. I had already been given the truth, but the reality of it hit me like a freight train. I wasn't sure what I would do with it. Should I confront Olivia? Should I confront this man? Roger's update was chilling. He confirmed that Olivia and the man had stayed in the hotel room for the night. In the morning, they went out for breakfast, and Roger was able to snap a picture of them together. The man was well-dressed, looked confident, but there was something about the way he stood next to Olivia that made me sick to my stomach. They were comfortable with each other. More than just a fling. Roger didn't have much more information, but he promised to keep watching. I felt like I was suffocating. I couldn't sit still any longer, so I decided to take a drive. I needed to clear my head, even though I knew I couldn't escape the truth. Olivia had betrayed me. I had been living a lie, and I didn't know how to move forward from here. When I returned home, Olivia had already texted me to say she was back from her business trip. She was on her way home, but I couldn't bring myself to speak to her. I had already seen enough. The evidence was there. She wasn't coming back from this. Not without some serious explanations, and I didn't know if I was ready to hear any more lies. The next few hours were a blur. Olivia came home with a smile as if nothing had happened. She kissed me on the cheek, asked about my day, and tried to make small talk. She didn't know I knew. She had no idea that I had already seen everything. And yet I stood there, staring at her, my heart breaking, my mind filled with a mixture of anger and pain. I couldn't let her off the hook so easily. I couldn't keep living this lie. I stood there, watching Olivia move around the kitchen, preparing a quick meal like everything was normal. The sight of her in that moment felt like a punch to the gut. How could she be so calm after everything that had happened? After everything I knew? I was staring at a woman I thought I knew inside and out, and now it felt like I was seeing a stranger. My mind was racing. I kept replaying the events from the previous night, the hotel room, the man, the picture Roger had sent me. But I couldn't just stand there in silence anymore. I couldn't keep pretending like everything was fine. Olivia looked up at me from the counter. "Are you okay, Jake? You seem distant." I couldn't keep it in anymore. The words I had been holding back for days spilled out. "No, I'm not okay," I said, my voice shaking though I was trying to stay calm. "I need you to explain something to me, Olivia. Why were you at a hotel last night with another man?" Her face immediately lost color, and I saw her eyes widen in shock. She dropped the knife she had been using to cut vegetables and stepped back. "Jake, what are you talking about?" Her voice was defensive, but I could tell she was rattled. "I know what's been going on. I hired a private investigator. I know everything." I reached into my pocket and pulled out my phone, showing her the photo of her and the man at breakfast, laughing together like nothing was wrong. Her hand trembled as she reached for the phone, but I didn't let go. "You can deny it all you want, Olivia, but the truth is right there. You've been cheating on me, haven't you?" She stared at the picture, her mouth opening and closing like she was trying to find the right words. But there were no words. There was no way to explain this away. I had seen enough. The reality of the situation was now clear, and the pain that coursed through me was almost unbearable. After what felt like an eternity of silence, she finally spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. I never meant for it to happen, Jake. I didn't want to hurt you." I shook my head, the anger rising in my chest. "You didn't want to hurt me? You didn't want to hurt me, and yet you've been lying to me for months, sneaking around, seeing someone else behind my back, and you're telling me you didn't mean for it to happen." Tears started to fill her eyes, but I wasn't ready for her tears. I didn't want her to cry in front of me like it would suddenly make everything better. "You don't get to cry about this. You don't get to act like you're sorry just because you got caught. You've been lying to me for months, Olivia. I can't even wrap my head around how you thought you could keep this from me." She started pacing, running her hands through her hair, clearly struggling with the weight of the situation. "I don't know what to say, Jake. I messed up. I was lonely." She stopped, pressing her lips together as if she couldn't get the words out. I felt my heart breaking, but the anger was so strong that I couldn't focus on the hurt. "Lonely," I repeated, my voice rising. "Lonely? Is that really the excuse you're going to use?" Olivia lowered her head, avoiding my gaze. "I don't know what happened. I didn't mean for it to go this far. It started with just texts, and then it became more. I didn't want to hurt you, Jake. I didn't want any of this." I took a step closer to her, my fists clenched at my sides. "But you did hurt me, Olivia. You've broken me. You've shattered everything I thought was real. I gave you my trust, and you betrayed it. We have kids. You're supposed to be a partner to me, but you've been living a double life." Her eyes filled with tears now, and her voice broke. "I'm so sorry, Jake. I never wanted to hurt you. I was just trying to fill a void I didn't know how to fix. I don't expect you to forgive me, but I need you to understand it wasn't about you. It was about me, about my own issues. I messed up." I took a deep breath, trying to keep myself together. It wasn't about what she said. It wasn't about her explanation. None of it mattered anymore. What mattered was that I had been living a lie. For months, I had been blind to what was really going on. I had trusted her. I had trusted the woman who was now standing in front of me, crying, begging for my forgiveness. But I couldn't forgive her yet. I wasn't sure I could ever forgive her. I nodded slowly. I can't make any decisions right now, Olivia. I can't just forgive you and pretend like everything's fine. You've broken my trust, and I don't know if I can ever get it back. I need space, and I need time to figure out what I'm going to do. But don't think this is just going to go away. You've destroyed what we had. Her sobs grew louder, but I didn't feel pity. I felt an overwhelming sense of emptiness. I wanted to feel anger, to scream, but all I could feel was the shattering of everything I had known. I'm not going to just forgive you because you're sorry, I said, my voice firm but heavy with emotion. I need time to think, and I need to figure out what I want out of this. Right now, I don't know if I want anything to do with you. She collapsed onto the couch, her face buried in her hands. Please, Jake, don't say that. Please. I want to fix this. I want us to be okay. I turned away, unable to face her anymore. The woman I thought I knew, the woman I thought was my partner, was gone. All that was left was a person who had betrayed me in the worst possible way. I'll be staying somewhere else for now, I said, my voice hollow. I'll figure out what to do from here, but I need space. I can't be in this house with you right now. I walked out of the room, leaving her behind, and went to grab a few things. The weight of the situation crashed over me, but I had no choice. I couldn't live a lie anymore. I needed answers, I needed time, and most importantly, I needed to start figuring out who I was without her. The next few days were a blur. I spent them mostly in my temporary apartment, trying to process what had happened. I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat. Every time I closed my eyes, all I could see was Olivia's face, the tears in her eyes, the disbelief on her face when I showed her the evidence. It wasn't just the affair, it was everything that came before it, the years of trust that had been built up only for it all to come crashing down in a single moment. I tried to keep busy, to occupy my mind with work or random distractions, but nothing seemed to help. I felt this overwhelming sense of numbness that hung over everything I did. I didn't know how to move forward. Was it possible to salvage anything from this? Was there a way for us to rebuild, or was it better to just walk away from the wreckage and start over? Rachel called and texted constantly, apologizing, begging for forgiveness, asking to talk. But I couldn't bring myself to respond. I couldn't bear hearing her excuses or her pleas. Every word she said felt empty, like a script she was reading just to get me back. It didn't feel genuine anymore. One evening, I finally replied to one of her texts, telling her that I needed space, that I couldn't make any decisions right now. She responded almost immediately, asking if I was coming home. My heart ached when I read that message. The idea of home used to mean something. It used to be where I felt safe, where we shared a life. Now it was just a place filled with memories I couldn't trust. How could I go back there? A few days after the text exchange, I agreed to meet with Olivia. I had no intention of jumping back into the relationship. I had no idea if I could ever trust her again. But I needed answers. I needed to hear her say the things she had been too scared to say before. I needed to know why she had done this. Was it truly just a moment of weakness? Or was there something deeper, something more sinister at play? We met at a cafe, a neutral spot, and when I saw her sitting there, waiting for me, my stomach twisted. She looked like she had been crying for days, her eyes red and swollen. There was no makeup, no attempt to look perfect. It was just her raw, vulnerable, and in pain. She stood when she saw me, her face filled with both relief and fear. "Jake," she said, her voice barely a whisper. "I'm so sorry. I don't know what to say. I can't take back what I've done, but I need you to understand that I never meant to hurt you. I was lost. I didn't know who I was anymore. And when I met him, it just felt like someone finally saw me." I could hear the desperation in her voice, the pleading tone. But I couldn't let her pull me back in. I needed her to answer the questions that had been eating at me. "Who is he?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady, but failing. "Why him? How long has this been going on?" She hesitated, looking down at the table before answering. "His name is Paul. He's someone I met at work a year ago. At first, it was innocent, just casual conversations during breaks, nothing major. But as things got more difficult at home, I started to look for someone to talk to. And one thing led to another. It wasn't planned. It wasn't even something I wanted. But it happened. And I've spent the last few months trying to figure out how to fix myself. How to fix my mistakes. Fix yourself." I repeated, my voice laced with disbelief. "What about fixing us, Olivia? You didn't think about me, about Sarah, about Ben? You didn't think about our family?" Her face crumpled and she began to cry again, her tears flowing freely now. "I know. I was selfish. I should have come to you. I should have been honest. I didn't want to hurt you, Jake. I didn't think it would get out of hand. But I've been so miserable. I was drowning in my own unhappiness and I thought I could fix it without hurting anyone. But I was wrong. I ruined everything. I sat there, stunned by her words. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Was this really her explanation? She was unhappy? That's all it took? That's all it took for her to throw everything we had away? My heart broke again, but this time it was different. It wasn't just sadness, it was a mixture of betrayal and anger that I couldn't suppress. Olivia, I said, trying to hold it together, I don't know what to say. I don't know if I can move past this. You've destroyed everything. I don't know if I can ever forgive you for this. She nodded, wiping her face. I understand. I don't expect forgiveness right away. But I want you to know that I'm willing to do whatever it takes to make things right. I don't want to lose you. I don't want to lose our family. I looked at her, at the woman I had loved for so long, and I felt the weight of everything in that moment. The pain, the confusion, the disbelief. I didn't know what the future held, but I knew I couldn't make any decisions today. I needed more time. More space. I don't know, Olivia, I said, my voice low. I need time to figure this out. I need to understand if we even have a chance of rebuilding. But right now, I don't know where to go from here. She nodded again, her face filled with regret. I'll wait, Jake. I'll wait as long as it takes. I just want you to know that I'll do whatever it takes to prove that I'm serious about fixing this. I'll do the work. I stood up, my legs shaky, and walked out of the cafe. As I stepped outside into the cold air, I didn't feel relief. I felt lost. I didn't know what to do with the information I had, with the feelings I had for her. The journey ahead would be long, painful, and uncertain. But I had no choice but to face it. I had to figure out if I could rebuild my life with Olivia or if this was the end. The days that followed that meeting were the hardest I've ever experienced. I thought that talking to Olivia, getting some answers, would help me find clarity, but it only left me more conflicted. I felt like I was standing at a crossroads, unsure of which path to take. The betrayal had been deep, and yet there was still a part of me that wasn't ready to let go of the woman I had once trusted with my entire life. After our conversation at the cafe, Olivia continued to reach out to me, offering apologies and reassurances. She kept asking if we could sit down and talk again, if we could take small steps toward rebuilding our relationship. And every time I hesitated. I wasn't sure if I could forgive her, but the idea of just walking away, of throwing away everything we had, was just as terrifying. I spent more time in my apartment, trying to keep busy with work, trying to keep my mind from constantly circling back to Olivia and what had happened. But it wasn't easy. The kids missed me and I missed them. They were the only thing that kept me somewhat grounded during this emotional chaos. It hurt more than I could put into words to see them every day and not be able to give them the family they deserved. Rachel, my sister, reached out to me one evening. We talked for hours and I finally opened up about what I had found out. I could tell she was shocked, but she didn't judge me. She simply listened and offered her support. I think she knew that this wasn't just about Olivia anymore, this was about me, about who I was becoming through all of this. After a few days, I agreed to meet with Olivia again. This time, we decided to meet at a therapist's office. I didn't want us to just keep talking in circles without a neutral third party there to guide the conversation. The therapist, Dr. Wells, was a middle-aged woman with a calm, understanding demeanor. She didn't take sides. She simply listened to both of us and asked the tough questions. Olivia apologized over and over again. She acknowledged her mistakes and admitted that what she had done was unforgivable. I'm so sorry for everything I've done, Jake, she said, her voice breaking. I was selfish and I didn't think about the consequences of my actions. I hurt you and I can't undo it. But I can only promise that I will do whatever it takes to show you that I am serious about making things right. I felt a wave of sadness wash over me. I was still angry, so angry. But I couldn't ignore the fact that she was trying. For the first time, I saw genuine remorse in her eyes. I saw the pain she was carrying, but it wasn't enough to make me forget what she had done. I wasn't sure if I could forgive her, but I also knew I couldn't keep living like this. I don't know if I can forgive you, Olivia, I said, my voice heavy with emotion. I don't know if I can trust you again. What you did is something I'll never forget. But right now, I just need space. I need time to figure out if there's even a future for us. She nodded, wiping her eyes. I understand. I'll wait, Jake. I know I can't rush this. I just want to show you that I can be the person you need me to be, but I know I have to prove it over time. We left the therapy session with no clear answers. It felt like taking one small step forward in a process that would take months, maybe even years. Olivia was willing to do the work, and for now, I was willing to give her a chance to prove it. But deep inside, I knew that the road ahead would be long and the healing process would not be quick. The question remained, could we rebuild this? Or was everything beyond repair? The next few months were a blur. Olivia and I continued with our separate therapy sessions, but there were days when I couldn't escape the doubt that had taken root in my heart. Sometimes I found myself wondering if I was even capable of trusting her again. The thought of her with Paul, of her lying to me for so long, was almost too much to bear. But we both worked hard to get through it. Olivia did everything she could to show me she was committed to change. She was more open, more vulnerable, and more present. She apologized daily, acknowledging her mistakes, but her words didn't mean much unless they were backed up by actions. It wasn't easy, and there were many days where I felt like I couldn't take another step forward. I still couldn't shake the image of her with another man, the laughter they shared, the intimacy that I had thought was mine. One night, after a particularly hard therapy session, I sat on the couch, staring at Olivia, who was sitting across from me, quietly watching me. She had been patient. More patient than I had ever thought she would be. She had stopped asking for forgiveness and had shifted to simply being there for me, giving me the space I needed to process. "I know it's not enough," she said softly, breaking the silence. "But I'm here. I'll always be here, no matter how long it takes for you to figure things out." I didn't know what to say. I didn't know if I could make the decision to keep moving forward with her, or if I should cut ties and start over. I had a lot of pain to work through, but a part of me still loved her. A part of me wanted to believe in us again. "I don't know where this goes," I admitted, my voice barely above a whisper. "But I don't want to give up on us. I don't know if I can trust you completely, but I want to try." And that's what we did. We tried. Every day we tried. We started taking small steps. We reconnected on a deeper level, communicating better, spending time together without distractions, and slowly finding our way back to a place where we could laugh again. But it wasn't without its challenges. There were days when I wanted to give up, when the pain felt too overwhelming. But there were also moments when I saw the woman I had married, the woman I had loved for so long, coming back to me. Healing wasn't linear. Some days were easier than others, and there were setbacks along the way. But as time passed, I began to believe that we could heal from this, even if the scars would always remain. Trusting again wasn't easy, but it was possible. In the end, I didn't know if our relationship would ever be exactly the same as it was before, but we were on a new path, one where the journey of healing was still unfolding. Whether or not we would make it in the long run was uncertain, but for the first time in months, I felt like I had a chance to make the right decision for me, for us, and for our family. It's been almost 6 months since that day in therapy when I agreed to give Olivia a chance to prove herself. In that time, we've made some significant progress, but I'd be lying if I said it's been easy. The road to recovery hasn't been linear. Some days I wake up feeling hopeful and ready to move forward, while other days, I still feel that deep ache of betrayal. There's a part of me that can't forget what happened, and I don't think that part will ever go away. But I've learned that healing is not just about forgetting. It's about learning to live with the scars, to build something new from the pieces that are still intact. And over time, Olivia and I have tried to rebuild, brick by brick, what we once had. We've spent more time together, talking, laughing, and simply being with each other in a way we hadn't done in years. There's a certain peace that started to emerge between us. We've had honest conversations about what happened, and Olivia has shown me, time and time again, that she's committed to change. She's given me the space I need to process, and when I've needed to talk, she's been there to listen. It's not perfect, and there are still moments where doubt creeps in, but we're trying. And that's enough for now. One of the hardest parts of this journey has been watching my kids, Sarah and Ben, try to make sense of everything. The divorce or separation was never part of the plan. They love their mother and father, and the tension between Olivia and me hasn't been easy on them. There are days when I feel like I'm failing them, and then there are days when I realize that all they need is us trying to be the best version of ourselves for them. That's what I'm working towards, showing them that despite everything, we are still a family, and we will find a way through this together. Olivia and I don't talk much about Paul anymore. It's not because we've forgotten, far from it, but because we've both agreed that the past is something we can't keep revisiting. The focus now is on the present and building the future, no matter how uncertain it may seem. I don't know what the future holds for Olivia and me. I don't know if we'll make it, if the foundation we're rebuilding is solid enough to weather whatever storms come our way. But for now, we're committed to continuing the work. We're both willing to put in the effort. And that, at least, is something. One of the unexpected results of all this pain has been the level of self-awareness I've gained through therapy. I've learned that the issues in our marriage didn't all stem from Olivia's affair. While her actions were undoubtedly a huge betrayal, there were underlying problems in our relationship long before she met Paul. I'm not saying that I was the perfect husband, far from it. I realized I had become complacent in our marriage, too focused on work, too distracted by my own ambitions, to really pay attention to the emotional disconnect that was building between us. I wasn't there for Olivia the way she needed me to be. And, as much as it pains me to admit, I think that's part of why she sought someone else for the attention she felt she wasn't getting from me. We've both been doing the hard work to not just fix the damage that was done, but to understand why it happened. We're both in therapy, together and individually. I've learned to express my feelings more openly, to make sure I'm present and attentive to Olivia's emotional needs. In turn, Olivia has shown me that she's taking responsibility for what happened and is committed to making sure nothing like this ever happens again. I don't want to paint a rosy picture of our situation. It's not easy. Some days, I wake up with that gnawing feeling of betrayal still lingering, and it takes everything in me to push through it. But then there are other days when I see the small changes Olivia's made and I feel a flicker of hope. When we laugh together, when I see her put in the effort to be there for the kids and for me, it reminds me of the woman I fell in love with all those years ago. It's not perfect, but it's real. And we're trying. After all the time we've spent apart and together, after the countless conversations and therapy sessions, I've come to a decision. I've decided to stay. I won't pretend that the process has been without its struggles, but I've come to realize that, for better or worse, I love Olivia. I love the woman who made a mistake and is doing everything she can to make things right. She's not perfect, and neither am I, but we are working towards something better. I can't forget what she did. I can't erase the pain, the disappointment, the distrust that still lingers beneath the surface. But I've also seen a version of her that I hadn't seen in years, the version that is truly committed to making this work, the version that is showing up for our family every day. I've learned that forgiveness is not a one-time thing. It's something you have to choose every day. It's not about erasing the past, but about accepting it and moving forward together. I don't know what the future holds. I don't know if Olivia and I will make it to the end of the road. But I know that I am ready to try. We've both agreed that we need to keep working on ourselves, on our marriage, and on the family. It won't be easy, but I'm willing to put in the effort. Olivia has shown me that she's willing to do the same. There are still hard days ahead, and there are still moments when I wonder if I'm making the right choice. But for now, this is where we are. This is our journey, and we're walking it together. As I sit here and reflect on everything that's happened over the past year, I can't help but feel a sense of cautious optimism. Olivia and I have come a long way. The pain is still there, but it's not the only thing defining our relationship anymore. We've made changes, both big and small. We're more honest with each other now. We talk about everything, even the hard things. There's no more hiding, no more pretending. We've learned how to communicate in ways we never did before. I've learned to forgive. Not just Olivia, but myself as well. I've learned to let go of the anger, the resentment, and focus on healing. It's been a slow process, but it's one we're both committed to. We've started dreaming again about the future, about our family, about what we want for ourselves. I'm not saying we've fixed everything. We haven't. There will always be scars from this, but I've come to realize that scars aren't the end of the story. They're a part of it, proof that you've been through something difficult and come out the other side stronger. So, as I look toward the future, I know one thing: we're not perfect, but we're still here. And that's enough for me, at least for now. I can't predict what tomorrow holds, but I'm willing to face it together.